The meeting open. It was a lovely presentation. Official welcome. Welcome everyone. And apologies, we've got John Colton and Max Eastcott. Could someone confirm those?
Move their acceptance.
Yes. So I've got Dave and Tiffany. Confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 29th of April. Tiffany. Francis. Thank you, girls. Declarations of interest and conflicts of interest. None? Stuart.
I have a joining block of land at the Bengler Industrial area.
Which item is that?
That'll be the acquisition of lands. So, shouldn't really, it's a non-accumulated. You won't have to leave the room for that one, Stuart. Additional late items is the quarterly budget review and the monthly investment. Could someone move that, please? Acceptance. Thank you, Tiffany and Jeff. So on to item 1, I guess. Councillor's activity report, officer's recommendation. Francis, Mash. Committee recommendations. Sorry, Marilyn. Councillor Marilyn Dixon, M.A.M.
OAM.
OAM. I've got to say. Item number 2, the committee recommendations, public infrastructure, community service plan, the Warrior Elder Medical Centre, executive report, monthly report, integrated planning. And everyone notes that the future budget workshop, the 17th of June, annual charges for water sewerage be increased by at least. So everyone's read that. Could we have a mover of all? Who was it? Francis and Stuart. Thank you. Item 3, application to modify a DA, and that will be Bob Swain's DA. Has everyone read through that and know what the alterations to that were?
Because this is a planning matter, we need to record your vote.
Okay, yes. They were minor recommendations, and I think they were things that we knew about prior.
Do they fit in, Alex? Is it quite okay or not?
Yeah, they are all fairly sensible requests, fairly well researched. I know there was some concern when this was originally passed from members of the public regarding the increase of traffic on Adam Scrub Road. One of the shale quarries that Council has been using on Adam Scrub Road is about to change hands, and the pit's nearing exhaustion. We don't think we'll pursue an agreement with the new landholders to continue accessing that quarry. So in a lot of ways there's one new quarry and one's disappearing. So there's it's a fairly reasonable outcome. I'd suggest one amendment to the amendments if that is possible, and that was sorry, I had it in front of me. I have to scroll back to it now. We'd originally requested that they upgrade their quarry access road to Ausroad standard. The revised condition, the suggested condition, is the intersection of the quarry access road and Adam Scrub Road is to be upgraded to a standard in line with the Eastwood quarry access entrance located at 1895 Adam Scrub Road. The upgrade works to be completed prior to the commencement of quarry operations. Guidance regarding the standards of work to be met can be obtained from Council's Technical Services Department. I'd suggest we just add, in addition to that should traffic movements exceed 5 one-way movements per day, temporary truck turning advisory signs will need to be erected. So it's just an advisory, just a warning. The nature of these quarries is that very little will happen for most of the year, and there'll be days or weeks when there's a significant amount of traffic. So temporary signs to say truck turning will address any safety concerns there without a too onerous upgrade on the road or the intersection.
Excuse me, Alex, can you give, I've written that should traffic movements exceed 5 movements a day?
Temporary truck turning advanced warning signs will be required to be erected.
And the officer recommendation for that report, that the report be received and the application to be modification development consent being DA be approved subject to the amended conditions attached to this report.
So moved with the amendment of the
Yes.
engineer.
Seconded.
Thank you, Dave and Francis.
Yeah, that's okay. Just motion as a stretch. So all 4?
Yes. Stuart was for you. Everyone.
Just a question of Alex. In reading this, is it still the fact that Bob Swain will not be able to sell this quarry gravel commercially?
No, so one of the revised conditions was to remove that restriction. I think we need to be realistic about what the commercial demand for that material is. Shale is quite frequently occurring in that area. The largest customer any operator is likely to have that isn't on the inland rail is going to be council.
My concern was that Taylor, across the road from this pit, came to the council meeting and complained bitterly. And he complained when it was only for council's use and Bob's use. Now we've changed slightly. Does Taylor get notified that?
So my understanding is that these modifications have been advertised and no objections to the modifications were received.
Okay, he didn't object. Okay. Thank you.
But Taylor's all out the other end of the road.
No, he's right opposite.
Is he?
But to go back to my earlier point, the Eastwood Quarry on the western end of Adams Scrub Road is looking increasingly like it doesn't have a future at all. So there's one less quarry, one more quarry.
I'm happy with that. It's only that Taylor jumps up and down about most things. So I just wanted to clarify so when he rings me I can tell him. Thank you. That'll do me.
So that was item 4 is the review of the bushfire prone lands, page 53.
Again, this is a planning matter that will require all of you to vote.
Yep.
Was it this Deputy Mayor, was this the part of the meeting that we had supposed to have on Monday? No?
No, the meeting on Monday was purely regarding the fire break around Warriala. This is regarding bushfire prone land.
Yeah.
Which is across the Shire, isn't it?
Yes.
As I read this,
Correct.
it's
Yes.
Shire.
That's what I did
too. Yeah.
And Alex, you're happy with it?
It's a planning matter and not my direct area of expertise, but support the officer recommendation.
Well, I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Yeah, it's just,
It's going on exhibition.
That's
so
right.
we're going to put it out there and
Yeah, we
get
have to do
information
it.
back from everyone.
Can I ask a question through Councillor Smith? cropping lands, Jeff, they've always been excluded, but they've now included as part of fire-prone lands due to fires. That was John and I actually did some work while we were away, and we read this, and this is one that cropped up with the inclusion of
Yeah, it says
cropping
that over
lands
here.
into the fire-prone, which will make it a fair bit different picture around the countryside because of the amount of cropping that goes on around here.
Yeah,
In this northern
I
end.
read that. Actually
Cropping
I wrote
lands,
it,
yeah.
yeah. I think a lot of these things that they're, the regulations and things that we've got, they're all built up, and I mean, a lot of times you've just got to
Do it.
disregard it. But,
Stuart, can do.
Conversation in the RFS on this matter is the fact that once an area becomes classified as fire prone, it puts more regulations. Example, if you want to build a house, it puts considerable amount of money extra. Example, water for the fires at your house, different insulation for the windows, fly screens. It can add up to $5,000 to $10,000 more than if you're out of fire-prone area. And I mean, we're trying to get people to come to the community and live here, and unfortunately this is regulations, but I think it's a bit disappointing.
But we also want them to be safe.
We do, we do.
Well,
So there's that balance there.
What's interesting about that, we put all these regulations on building the houses and stuff. If the house burns down, you look at the swimming pool and it's still full of water.
That's correct.
So why they should put something together to make the house that they can block off the gutters, pump water into the gutters, and reuse the pool water to put the fire out. Sprinklers on the roof. I don't know, but
that's a real possibility, and
I
some
know.
people do that.
Yeah.
Some people do that. But this does put considerable amount of money on anyone doing a new DA.
Francis?
This is only on display.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is out for comment. This is not
Final.
this is not the final document.
No, it'll be pretty close to it.
I agree with you. However, it is only out for comment at this stage, and like if we should all take the opportunity to encourage people to comment if there is those sorts of issues that we're worried about. Yeah.
should
Yeah.
we
I'm
be
not sure about the cropping land.
land,
I
whether we
didn't-
should be looking at that?
Yes, maybe this is an opportunity to have our say if that's what's bothering us, yeah. But that's what, as I read this, it was for comment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Be put on public display.
Display.
And we did early days discuss whether it should be a blanket thing like it is, or whether we should have distinctions, as in Bingra not being nearly as fire prone in the township as Borealda, for instance. That was discussed, and
The other
it drives insurances up, it drives
that's exactly what
building
it was.
costs up.
That's
So
what
maybe
the
it
big
is
mention
something
was, the
council needs to
insurance-
put in
the
a-
insurance cost to people.
I
if
mean,
their houses are
I
being-
think what Tiffany said, I mean, is the fact that we need to keep our people
Safety.
safe.
And-
But there
yeah.
is a balance of how much we're trying to get people to build new houses. And if $10,000 extra to it's a lot of money.
The other thing was that with the work being done around Borealda, it was to help mitigate that fire damage to the houses that are already here. So if we're clearing that area around, we're helping make it safer for possible new homes by not having all that tree mass.
Unfortunately, Patsy's not here, and it is a planning matter. Possibly we could bring it up again
At our
in
workshop.
June or at the workshop if you.
Well, maybe
that's
want
a
to
good
go
idea.
Grey area, and
because it is a
you're looking at that
regulation.
cropping land. I mean, it's building construction. It could end up including building and constructions in cropping land is what, but, yeah. Well,
So the resolution is to put it on display, and I've just underwriting further consideration of this matter at the next
Yeah.
meeting or before the close. The
Before
submissions,
close
which
of
is
time.
30 days
Yeah.
public submission.
But if I could just make comment on the comment regarding Warrialda being, Bingra being less fire prone than Warrialda, if you look at the map on page 62 of the proposed bushfire prone land map, there are two yellowish dots somewhere near the centre of that map. They are Warrialda and Bingra. So it appears that a substantial part of Bingra is not proposed to be either Category 1 or Category 2 bushfire prone land.
Get into that little bit.
So I don't think there's a blanket coverage of either of the townships because part of Warrialda appears to be neither of those categories also.
So you're saying that work we've undertaken has mitigated the around Warrialda?
No, that's more likely to be, I'd say the fringes of Warrialda would still be included as bushfire prone land, but where we are right now, for
Township
instance,
itself?
isn't.
No, okay.
So would it be possible, Deputy Mayor, to ask, could we have a map for further discussion about where the fire prone area in Bingra, and I can't tell from this. It's not detailed
The
enough.
deep orange, it came up better here on Alex's.
Yeah, it's still, we can provide high resolution pictures of
I think we
both
need
towns.
to, I think it's an important issue.
Yeah, so it was much more when Alex showed me
still-
there than it was on here.
Okay. So I
You see
request
that
a
you
map
don't
of
get
both
houses.
towns, please.
Will we discuss it at the workshop? Is it a matter for the workshop?
Yeah, I think so.
To be discussed at the workshop.
That's the amendment.
Okay, so the resolution is that the report be received and that the final draft bushfire prone land map be endorsed by council as required by section 10.3 of the Environmental Planning Assessment Act. Further, that the final draft bushfire prone land map be placed on exhibition for a period of 30 days for public submission. The map is to be exhibited on council website in addition to the following locations, and it just outlines council offices and libraries. Further, that a letter be drafted to the Commissioner of the Rural Fire Service requesting certification of the final draft of the bushfire prone land map, and the letter is only to be sent once the exhibition period has expired and subject to no submissions being received. Now, we've put in further consideration of this matter is to be undertaken by council before the lapse of time for public submission with a planning professional industry expert present. And Councillor Young has moved it. We need a second now.
Stuart has seconded it.
Thank you.
So we have to vote on it.
We have to vote on that.
Yes.
And because it's a planning,
Yeah, yes.
You have to show your hand.
Thank you.
Yep. So, where am I up to? Late items before we go into confidential.
I heard something good, wasn't it?
Right? Hey, I'm hearing you want to put me on a time limit.
Quarterly budget review statement.
So the late items we're going to now. So that we can include the press. Item 1.
Well, it's just the quarterly budget review.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can take any questions, bearing in mind that this information, once again, we're already at the end of May, so a lot of those figures were put in there based on 31st of March. So, but we're still looking good. We're still
ahead
looking.
of budget.
Yes, from what was originally adopted to what we're sitting at the moment.
Yep.
We're doing really well, and there hasn't been. It will be interesting to see whether we do get our portion of financial assistance grant early this year. I haven't heard any whispers, so that will be interesting if we don't get that, because that's $2 million that we won't have come in this year that we have for the last 4 or 5 years that we've paid us early. So, but since that was done, we also had the announcement of that $2.3 million grant funding coming in. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Unless anyone has any questions.
Any further questions to Helen?
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Nice.
Got it. And Francis seconded it.
Yep. And we're ahead of budget, which is good.
Great.
Thank you, Helen. Now we go to item 2, monthly investment rates, which we sort of covered there too.
So it's the same standard report, but I can take any questions if anyone has any questions.
The contracted liabilities, that's the road, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. That's the only question I have. And I'm happy to move the report. It's very
Thank you,
good.
Francis. Someone to second it? Tiffany?
Like where we are with the rates.
Yeah.
Any more questions before we vote on it?
No need to.
Okay.
In favour.
Right. Now we're going into confidential. Kim, I didn't get to welcome you earlier because you weren't there, but I did welcome the press and then realised there was no one there. But welcome, and now goodbye. We'll move into confidential.
Want to do council reports first? So
Oh, well, we could do council reports first and you can stay for that. So we'll start with Stuart. Stuart, do you have a councillor report?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Nothing from Stuart? Jim?
Not so much a report, I just want to make a comment about the meeting on Monday, the one for the fire meeting that we had here. Can we get a little bit more, a bit of an agenda sent out to us when those meetings are on? Like there was a heap of people turned up to the meeting that we didn't know that were going, and also all the people that are on the committee hardly got an invite to it. I had to ring Charisse and say, you know, what's going on, because I seen one, I don't know who it went to, it might have been you, Dave, I'm not too sure. Did you get it?
No, I got a phone call, and obviously Alex rang me to see if I was going. I said, well, I was just on my way to Gladstone and I couldn't find that I could be there in 3/4 of an hour.
Yeah, no, that's all right, but I just thought,
I
Jeff wasn't notified of the meeting, I didn't get notification of it, neither did Stuart.
In this instance, Councillor Moore, there was a breakdown of communication between RFS and Council, and Council was of the view that RFS only wanted staff present because they wanted to talk about operational stuff, and it turned out to be the opposite. They wanted elected representatives, and I did do a call around as soon as I discovered that, and I was a little bit late in the day to do it.
That's all right.
So I going forwards, I wouldn't expect that to happen again. But I apologise.
No, that's all right. It's just a minor thing, but if we could, you know, if we know who's coming to the meeting,
Certainly.
outside of the councillors or whatever, whoever's on the committee, we might be able to plan a little bit of a bit more suggestion or something like
Yeah.
that.
So it wasn't until the meeting started that I knew myself who was present.
Yeah. No, that's all. That's
No, for the future.
the only thing. Oh, just
I'll agree with the others are saying. I didn't get an invite and I sort of just put my name down thinking, but I had no idea when I walked in the other day.
I was very pleased to see you, Jeff.
There's all these people here. I should turn that off. Anyway, it was a good result in the end, I think.
It was.
But I didn't have a clue who all the people were. But anyway.
Thank you. Anything else, Jim?
that's it.
No, I've got none.
No, Marilyn?
No, I've got nothing unless you want to talk about that meeting, or we got that.
Well, it's probably worth informing the councillors who aren't aware of the outcome of that. If you want to do it, I'm happy to.
No, you do it. I know.
So via it was essentially the conclusion of the fire break project as far as RFS sees it for now. Originally, we'd proposed a 150 metre break around the entirety of Warrialda. Shelley Smythe from RFS has done a mountain of work, and through about 6 different instruments and mechanisms available to RFS and Crown Lands, we've got a way of doing a 40-metre fire break around the entire town, and that will be at the cost of RFS, and they're promising us it will be done before the next fire season, so in the coming months.
So we asked for 150 and we got 40.
Yes.
Is that the moon and only a star?
Well, the
is
status
that good
quo
enough?
prior to that was 6, so it's...
Okay.
I think in the long run, or in the washout of it, like I said, if we'd have asked for 50 in the first place,
We'd have got the
10, 50. We asked for 100. But looking at the whole thing, 150 is a fair whack. I didn't ever think we'd ever get that, and really so. And the fact that they're going to do it for us is a consideration.
Yeah.
And like Alex said, we might be able to creep a bit more. And
I didn't say
at
that.
least
I report that.
But anyway, I think in the long run, it's a good step forward for us.
And another positive from that meeting was we'd said from day dot that we would maintain the fire break, keep the vegetation down. The RFS were fairly confident there'd be recurrent funding in their buckets of money that would pay for that. So we'd have to apply for it each year, but they said due to the how bushfire prone Warrialla is, they'd be very surprised if every year we didn't get that funding.
Oh, good.
That's a good outcome.
Alex, there was no mention of when we had a meeting before with them, they were going to send a mitigation crew to do just the other side of the SES shed, all that country there that was burned, right through to the power line, Jeff, wasn't it?
Yeah. We went and had, I brought that up with Shelley at the meeting, but I don't, was that area in the...
I don't recall, and I don't have the paper in front of me, I'm afraid.
It's an area we may be able to nick in there somehow. I did bring up the fact that a lot of the stuff out, particularly out there and up behind, was black pine, which I was led to believe was in what do you call it, invasive.
Woody woods.
Yeah, so they confirmed that.
And they confirmed that, but it's like everything. When I brought it up, they said, "Oh, we can, but then we'd have to change." I couldn't quite work that out, Alex.
I wasn't sure either.
We can, but we'd have to change the zone or something rather than I gave up after that supper. So it's like everything, and I mentioned at the meeting, it's like everything, you just get roadblocks chucked in front of you the whole way. But I think what we've gained out of it is at least a good start.
Maybe that's a clarification for our workshop. We and Black Pine.
Well, we can add it into
It's not so much the clarification of that. Well, we probably should, because they agreed. But if you're starting to knock down invasive species, you're going to a different.
Oh, okay.
Different.
Yeah.
What did you understand it, Leah?
Yeah, it was a different policy, like something else kicked in.
Yeah, we'd have to apply for different. I don't know. It sort of all just seemed a bit hard. So
I think that we all, and particularly the councillors that instigated this, should be pretty proud of the outcome. It's not 150 metres. Right now we've got nothing. In 6 months' time we're going to have 40 metres and it won't cost us a cent.
And I attended the first meeting and the last. I attended the one on Monday. When I attended the first meeting, I was struck by the territories and how confrontational it was. And I thought, these people aren't going to get anywhere. So it was really refreshing to sit in on Monday and see what had been achieved. And it must be Shelley. Just pulled it all together. But you're right, Alex is right in saying that if this council hadn't brought it up, we'd be like any other New South Wales town just waiting. And waiting for the disaster. So I was really comforted to know that they've considered our fire trails and plotting them and maintaining them, as well as the wind. As Councillor Smith said, there's no way that we would have got 40 metres if this council or your committee weren't making noise. And I think it's probably going to be now a standard set for other small from what I could pick up,
Yeah.
other small communities that have similar
That's excellent.
vegetation. Yeah, it's you should be
I know
very
it's-
I
proud.
think that
Is it possible that we may be able to, and you know, do it ourselves, clean that area up from the SES to the main power line and say this is how it should be, rather than people trying to visualise it? People have me personally, I think people have a bad image of visualising things how it should be.
So you're talking about creating that
Where
parkland area?
where it's been burnt up there, get in there, just clean it all up, and say leave the big trees and that, and just leave it. And say, this is how I think we.
I think we'd need to source the relevant environmental approvals to do that, and I'm not sure. I can quickly have a look what the particulars are regarding the ownership of the land there either.
I think it's LLS,
LLS there, I think.
that stuff, Alex, I think.
Yeah. I think the first thing we need to get that map in front of you that they presented on Tuesday or Monday, whenever it was. And it may well be that area is included in the 40 metres. I'm sorry off the top of my head, I don't recall.
Yeah.
I took a group of RFS people up to the back of Nauru and around the hospital, and I said, this is what we want. And I think it calmed them down a little bit.
Yep.
And I'm correct in saying that. That's the sort of thing we want, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
That cleared area there with just the big trees.
But something else they did say was that when I mentioned getting it to a position where you can slash it, because originally the work that they did near Nauru, they left quite a mess. They said it was part of their charter to leave this break where a slasher can go straight over the top, so they will deal with stumps. They'll I'm not sure what they'll do with the trees, whether they just get mulched and spread, or whether they cart it away.
They mulched a lot of that up there behind the hospital.
Yeah, but council did a lot of work cleaning it up after they left.
I think that bit, by the look of this map, might be part of it, girl.
Oh, yeah.
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 I think it is actually, so.
I left the meeting thinking that's as good as it's going to get, and it's far better than what
Yep.
we thought would happen initially. So,
Yeah, sure.
and that Warrialda now has a plan, which is comforting.
I
think
think we
that's a
picked the
great
right
outcome.
time to do it, because after the horrendous bushfires, I think there was a lot of community, and when they had that big insight into that and saw what damage was done to other communities, we were fortunate we didn't get damaged, and I think that also helped our cause, and we were sort of in the right place at the right time to do what we did.
So it's been a great outcome for us.
I think it was instrumental, Dave. That the fire services very
Just out of
twitchy.
interest on fires, I was at the MDA and Shane Fitzsimmons was one of the speakers, and he was the, whatever he was during the fires, and he said, and this is practically quoted, locally led recovery will get best bang for buck.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Perfect timing.
yeah, perfect opportunity, as you said.
Jeff, do you have
Just
anything?
one question. Alex, the bloke that was doing most of the talking, is he Department of Industries or something?
He was Crown Lands, and I'd not met him before. I think that he may have travelled from Sydney. He was quite an impressive bloke. He really knew his stuff.
That's good, isn't it?
They were one of the main bugbears. Crown Lands was what, RFS were on our side, but Crown Lands was the one that was really holding us up. But then I think the BFMC meeting I attended with you, Stuart, that's when we first heard about 40 metres.
Yes, it
And
was.
we thought, I said then, 40 metres is the start.
Yeah.
And that was the Crown Lands bloke from Armidale, I think, was there. So,
Rodney.
Rodney,
That all, Jeff?
Yeah, that gives one.
Francis? You've got a report?
Only that I attended the MDA meeting in Wentworth and thank the council for sending me. I will do a bit of a report, but I apologise I haven't got one today, but we had the show as soon as I got back and I just haven't done it. No excuses, I just haven't done it.
Tiffany?
No, I've just got a concern from a few few people that have been trying to make bookings for the caravan park. And in particularly last week, there was some people trying to get onto not the Shire, the actual caravan park, to try and make bookings for somewhere to stay for the funeral, and they tried a number of times and couldn't get on, and they left their phone number and no calls were returned. They ended up going to the Shire office, I think, and getting accommodation. But I've heard it a number of times.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm worried that we're missing out on people staying there.
Yep.
And this person that came home for the funeral also said that he'd heard people say that they know of people that drive in and there's no one there and they go the next day. So I think we could be missing out on
Oh, okay.
on people.
happened a lot.
It's been happening a lot, I think, and they're not returning calls or answering phones.
Hopefully we'll overcome that when we get the
Yeah.
manager's office at the grounds.
Yeah, hopefully.
Where's that house being built?
It's in the process of being built. I'm not sure when it'll be installed. I can find out for you.
It's a,
Transportable, a uni plan.
yeah, up
Yeah.
Armidale.
Yeah.
Be very nice.
Yeah, so I'm just worried that I've heard it a number of times, but this person was quite upset about it.
Thank you. That's all too.
Yeah, so
Another thing.
Not a thing. And I don't have anything this week.
Pardon?
That was about the trip.
Oh, I could tell you all about that girl, but it was, I didn't think I'd ever see such dry country again as what I saw all the way out there in the west. But
So nothing further in reports. All right. Well, then moving on. So, farewell. So if someone would move that we go into the confidential part of our meeting.
I moved.
So Colton and Tiffany. Same thing, we have the same apologies.
The recording.
Yes, we're recording.
Yeah.
Okay, adoption of the recommendations of the confidential session include acquisition of land in Bingara, that council proceed with the compulsory acquisition of the land described as part lot 7011 DP 1096248 for the purpose of creating an industrial land precinct in accordance with sections 186 and 187 of the Local Government Act 1993 and in accordance with the Land Acquisition Just Terms Compensation Act 1991. Further, that council make an application to the Minister and the Governor for approval to acquire the land described as part lot 7011 DP 1096248 by compulsory process under section 186 bracket 1 bracket and 187 of the Local Government Act 1993 for the purpose of industrial land precinct in accordance with the requirements of the Land Acquisition Just Terms Compensation Act 1991. Further, that council makes a said application to confer rights and interests, being the right to develop an industrial land precinct in relation to the land to be acquired on Guida Shire Council in accordance with section 26 bracket 1 bracket C bracket 3 bracket A bracket of the Native Title Act 1993. Further, that the land is to be classified as operational land in accordance with section 31(2) of the Local Government Act 1993. Further, that for the purposes of section 30, the Land Acquisition Just Terms Compensation Act 1991, the council agrees to the land being acquired for compensation set at the market value of the land as agreed by the General Manager and the Department of Planning, Industry and Environment, Crown Lands. Further, the council delegate to the General Manager or his delegate the power to do anything further as necessary to give effect to the compulsory acquisition, including obtaining any necessary approvals and publishing any necessary notices in the Gazette. Further, that authority be given to the General Manager to affix a common seal of the council to any documentation required to give effect to this resolution. Further, the council notes that compensation may become payable to the Gomeroi people in accordance with section 24MD of the Native Title Act 1993 for the compulsory acquisition of the native title rights and interests in the event that the Federal Court of Australia determines that native title existed in the land prior to acquisition. Moved Councillor Young, seconded Councillor Dixon. Last resolution concerns the Salvation Army building in Bingra. That council purchase lot 1 DP 920892 20 Maitland Street, Bingra for 140,000 exclusive GST if applicable. Further, that council's common seal be affixed to any necessary documents. Further, that the land be classified as operational land following its purchase. Move Councillor Young, second Councillor Dixon. Adopted.
It is adopted, we did adopt it. So, do I have to have some now?
Give her
Oh,
a
something.
money.
Adopted it.
Yep.
Not if you've got a plan to withdraw a claim.
So,
No,
declare the
no.
meeting. No further business.
Unbelievable.
Then no further business. And I declare the meeting closed.
Very good.